Hello, fellow travelers. I'm Veronica from Human Design Journey, and we're going to look at the daily transit and the weekly transit since the sun just moved gates, and we're now in the 55th gate, abundance, the gate of spirit. And abundance is strictly a question of spirit. So here we are. We have two channels defined. The 1949, the channel of synthesis, a design of being sensitive, and the channel of transitoriness, a design of jack of all trades. So we have the stream of sensitivity, energy to need or not, and awareness of what is needed or not, support and rejection. And on the other side, we have the stream of feeling, awareness and power to release a feeling or not, crisis or change, manifestation of a feeling or not. So we have fuel, potential, and then possibility and expression. So although there are different streams, there is a direct connection to the throat, which means that everybody who has undefined at this moment root, emotional system, and throat will be under pressure and having the potential and the possibility to express without emotional clarity out of sheer conditioning. So be aware. And this is what actually the daily transit is about. And it's not only the daily transit. We have each hexagram. The sun stays in each hexagram for approximately 5.5 days. So today the sun entered into the 55th gate and the earth in the 59th gate. And it's gonna stay there until the 24th, Friday. So this theme in the background frequency will be very vivid, and it's interesting because this is the gate of spirit. It's about provoking to find the right spirit, part of the channel 3955. And then the earth, which is the opposite on the mandala wheel. The grounding and balance is in the gate of dispersion, the gate of sexuality, part of the channel of mating, the ability to break down barriers to achieve union. And this energy will be also influenced by actually the 49 will be out, so will be the 19th. So it's for a short time we have here this channel. Let's look at it for a second. So this is the channel of synthesis. It links the 19th through the root center, the gate of approach, to the 49th, the gate of revolution in the emotional center. So on the emotional side, we leave the realm of money and enter the realm of belonging, because this is, if you look at the ego center and we divide it, we have the capitalist side and we have the socialist side, where you work not for money, and where you cannot buy love and affection. It is either there or not. And the deal here is different. It's about work that the tribe cannot pay for, like clean the snow in front of the building or something like that. So here we have the sensitivity to know who belongs to the tribe and who doesn't. The support of the tribe is so deep that every member really owes their life to every other member. The family is a strong unit, and there is nothing abstract about this or democratic about this or logical. It's about support, and it's very sticky. It's about having your fridge full, and it's about territory. And actually, here is the bond which is breaking between animal and humans. It's an interspecial channel of the mammalian channel. Here we have a deal with the animals that we provide them with shelter and security and food for exchange of some of the members of the flock being eaten by us. And this is finishing. That's why we see so much vegetarians and vegans and so on and so on. And plus the future form, the raves, which are going to start to come out of us, to be born out of us, starting after 2027, will not be able to digest meat at all. But people, for instance, with the 49th gate are usually meat eaters, for instance. So it's not to say that vegetarians and vegans is the way for everybody. Although there is a possibility that meat in this form and the way we breed animals is poisonous to them and to us. Can be when it's really done in very bad conditions and without humanitarian way of raising it. So most of human history, we have been living in tribes, and in the tribe, it is very simple arrangement of love, honor, and obedience that holds it all together. The basic needs of the tribe are security, shelter, food, protection for the young. And the 4919 channel is part of the stream of the physical sensitivity in tribal ego circuitry. So it negotiates the world through sense of touch, bringing people together, deciding who's in, who's out, and who gets what. The 49th is also the gate of distributing the resources, and the gate of rejection as well, the gate of the butcher. So sometimes quite nasty words or very straightforward words can come out here. It's also the gate of principles. And seeing what the tribe needs, delivering those needs. It's also very sensitive to its own position, wanting to be needed, to give support, and needing to be wanted, to be supported. And when we look at the channel from this perspective, and remember that it is a projected channel, we see that for the 4919, waiting to be invited is the crucial and critical first step. Their emotional response over time to being invited is critical to be correct. So we need to have emotional clarity, and the pressure of the 19th to be connected can draw into association of just wanting to do things without emotional clarity, and absent an invitation or lacking emotional clarity, it can wind up in relationships that are characterized by constant rejection of self and others. and this is in the air. Then we have, so it's in the sixth line, the gate of revolution, gate of principles, ideally the transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. This is the driving force. In the sixth line, attraction, the power of revolution in action to expand its support. An innate impressionability that transforms the fence-sitter into the committed, the sensitivity and potential to embrace and transform others. Or the other side, stubborn and often fatal, rejectionism, oversensitivity that leads to rejection of principles and others as a rule. These will be gone very soon, but indeed here we can either be disengaged or suddenly become very engaged, the fence-sitter into committed, or stubborn rejectionism. And the other side, the Mercury is in fifth line, sacrifice. Here is the communication and thinking. So this is what we're going to be hearing in the news. Approach the gate of wanting, the need to limit personal potential in order to achieve a larger goal. The self-restraint fundamental to such a nature, energy to keep one's sensitivities restrained. Or the other side, a tendency in sacrifice to condescend. Sacrifice can fuel a lack of sensitivity. So about sacrifice, about being sensitive to not having your needs met. And fifth line, it's about projection, projecting onto the other that sacrifice is needed to fuel a lack of sensitivity, for instance. Then we have Jack of all trades, 35, 36. So we have the channel of transitoriness is also its code. So here we have the 36th gate, the gate of darkening of the light in the emotional center, linking to the 35th gate in the throat center, the gate of progress. So we have here an emotional manifesting channel that will try anything and everything, even if there's no obvious value, to obtain experience and share it with you. Experience can be the worst teacher. It gives the test before presenting the lesson, as Vernon Law says. But over time, gaining all these experience might grant some wisdom of what experiences pay off in terms of value, or it might result in a sense of dejection that nothing amounts to very much. So rejection, dejection, the creative nature of this channel is not personal, but collective, and it must share what it does with others, and share what it does, not what it thinks. So they want you in the experience with them. This is the experiential way that might require doing things that have never been done before. It's a manifesting channel, getting and piercing into new territories. And these might not be easy. And that's why there is crisis when you try something new that has never been tried before. Very often it can be a critical situation before it becomes part of the knowable. But here, what makes it so interesting, the process is shared, the new is shared, and it's like experience exploring in an abstract way. So it's part of the abstract circuit. So it's about getting sense of the experience only after it's over. So you dive in, you experience what you experience, you share with somebody, and only after it's finished, it might you might turn back and from the distance of time see what was it all about. So let's get look at the concrete lines. So we have the 36 activated by Neptune. Second line, the darkening of the light, the gate of crisis, assistance to others in times of decline, the application of imagination to schemes which benefit others, feelings that can benefit others in times of crisis. So it's the illusion and spirituality. The 36th gate will stay here till year 2025. So we're going to see a lot of crisis going on, a lot of emotionality and new things being discovered, and we are not going to even know what is it all about until it's over and until the veil is maybe lifted. Who knows? We'll see. Here in the second line, it's about being projected upon or projecting out yourself. So assistance to others in times of decline. And then we have the 35th gate in Mars, which is the immature energy, the energy dynamics in gate of progress, the gate of change, fifth line altruism. So this very expansive energy, the sacrifice of personal for communal progress, can be seen in the air, especially now looking at the devastating disaster which happened in Syria and Turkey with more than 50,000 dead, 56 by now, and then they're expecting more. Today they just stopped the search for survivors, and now they're only concentrated on helping those who already survived, because anyways it's more than 10 days, so it's just not possible to find more living people. So the principles of interaction and harmony communicated successfully for the benefit of the whole. Progressive communication that can bring beneficial change to the whole. And then Jupiter in detriment, though altruistic and cooperative in general, a personal regret that in interaction, a greater personal expansion had been lost. Progressive communication, but always the sense that personal progress has been sacrificed. This is what the expansive energy is for, available progressive communication, or for the beneficial change of the whole, or sacrificing the personal progress for, again, the whole. Yeah. And then let's go back to the sun, because this is the main energy force right now. It's in the first gate, cooperation. The expansion of activity through cooperation with powerful forces, through principled actions that guarantee continued support and engender prosperity. The potential to find the spirit through cooperation with powerful forces. And we have the detriment, the concentration on harmonic relationships with powerful forces that provide the continuity but not necessarily advancement, and the potential to harmonize with powerful forces but not necessarily for the benefit of the spirit, because this line is looking exactly for that, for potential to find the spirit through cooperation. Then tomorrow we have the second line, abundance hampered by slander or gossip, the gift of being able to penetrate to the center that may demonstrate effectively through its relating talents, that its trustfulness is genuine. Emotional stability and the strength of the spirit is dependent on being trusted by others. And the earth, the direct challenge to slanderer, who will always have the advantage of quoting the bard, methinks he doth protest too much. Only continued example can overcome distrust, the emotional drive to insist on trustworthiness that does not guarantee its acceptance by others or benefits the spirit. So this one is a little bit too mystical, maybe, to understand, but it's about being projected upon the abundance hampered by slander or gossip. And if you're let alone to do your own thing, gain emotional stability and the emotional drive to insist on trustworthiness or the strength of the spirit, depending on the trust by others. The 55th gate, it's about finding the right spirit. It's individual gate, which can be quite melancholic and moody. And it shows different deepness, depth of the feeling, and the different lines. You see cooperation, distrust, innocence, assimilation, growth, and selfishness, all parts of this process of feeling through. And here I was only following orders is a genuine defense. In the third line, when the form is correct and attempts at actualization have been disciplined and within guidelines, failure cannot be personally attributed. The emotional possibility to recognize that despite one's best efforts, failure is possible and does not need to affect the spirit. Whether the cup is half full or half empty depends on the observer. So beware whether you want to eat with somebody. It's a lot about eating here. So genuine defense, if you're not in the mood, don't eat. Or if you're not with the right people, don't eat with them. Because you have the emotional possibility to recognize that despite one's best efforts, failure is possible and does not need to affect the spirit. Or Mars in detriment, where a struggle against conformity or individual initiative can bring a superior to ruin while safely hiding behind his shield. The energy to selfishly protect one's spirit at the expense of others. Those are the themes. They're not right or wrong. Here is no moral in human design. So genuine defense can be, on one hand, recognizing that despite your efforts, failure is always possible, or selfishly protecting your spirit at the expense of others. Fourth line, assimilation, the establishment of a framework that balances principles with energy and leads inevitably to expansion and prosperity. The possible spirit that comes when emotional awareness and energy are balanced and principled. And on the other side, boundless energy that knows to restrain. Boundless energy that ignores awareness at the risk of the spirit. Self-explanatory. Here we have the fifth line, growth in detriment and integrative openness that in its broad acceptance of advice may be eventually eclipsed. An emotional openness where the spirit is at risk from conditioning. Because of the projection field, which is on the fifth line. Then we have the sixth line, which is selfishness, acquisition obsession that though alienating is still indirectly beneficial materially to others. The possibility of finding the spirit through materialism. Interesting, huh? And where the material abundance exists, but no one gets to share its light. The no moon phase. The possibility that materialism becomes obsessive with the mean spirit that will not share. Being selfish. But look how many activations are there in the emotional center, the fates, the abundance, the spirit, the attraction, and revolution. Then we have the crisis. So, and on the other side, pointing towards the sixth gate. So quite emotional times are happening right now. Let's look at the 59th gate, which is where we're grounded, where the energy is being grounded. First line, the preemptive strike. The authority and vitality that in understanding purpose and direction can recognize and eliminate barriers before they become impregnable. The power of fertility to impregnate. But preemptive strike is also a military term, which means to attack before you're attacked. So it's kind of a defense strategy. In this position, the ability and intelligence to recognize, but a deep indecisiveness about how and when to act, the potential of fertility limited by uncertainty. So that's also self-explanatory. Uncertainty to go for it or preemptive strike, just doing it before you get the hit back. Then tomorrow we have self-imposed barriers, a preferred and natural separateness that protects against the inevitable instability engendered by union, the restriction of the sex drive to maintain separateness. Or, since it's the second line, shyness, you wait for your barriers to be put down. And a calculated shyness rooted in deep psychological barriers that even in dynamic individuals will always restrict interaction. So it's very picky. The second line is narrow. It tastes, needs things to its taste. Infertility, rooted psychologically or biologically, that conditions the drive for separateness. So we have here the hermit, self-imposed barriers. Then the day after tomorrow, Saturn exalted, the third line, openness, where the search for identity and security can only be achieved through dropping of barriers in order to define oneself through union, where one is empowered through union in an intimacy with others, or the other side where openness is transformed into promiscuity and its attendant problems, where the drive for empowerment through union and intimacy can lead to promiscuity. So it's an interesting line, either you're open or not, bumping into others, dropping barriers, or becoming overly open to the others in a promiscuous way, which can, of course, be a discovery or bring you a lot of pessimism. Fourth line, brotherhood, sisterhood, the dropping of barriers to union to establish the universal union. The power derived for non-sexual intimacy. You have to be friends first. The fourth line, brotherhood, sisterhood. The fourth line is about friendship and the network. So it's about first knowing the stories about your exes before getting into a new relationship. It's an intellectual understanding that they rarely put into action, where the idea cannot restrain the sex drive. Oops, I did it again. And fifth line, the femme fatale or Casanova. We have the power to use love. So this is a roll gate, and that's why those keynotes are how we actually, if you have the first line in your profile or the second line in your profile, third line, fourth, this is how you actually treat sexual connection. So the fifth line, femme fatale Casanova, the power to use love to break down any barrier. Given the sun's lightness, there is no negative connotation inherent in this description. The power of sexuality to attract others. And the other side, Uranus in detriment, where the negative potential of this power becomes evident. The gigolo, the adventurous. The power of sexuality expressed as sexual power. So both sides. The fifth line is actually seducing you to seduce them back. Quite interesting sexual behavior. Sixth line, the one night stand. And actually, it's exactly what it is not, because the sixth line is looking for the soul, which is the other half. Let me just see how it's in English. I just cannot remember it right now. It is Okay, let me just... Excuse me for that. Sometimes it happens. Okay. Soulmate, yay. So the sixth line, looking for soulmate or not. So the one night stand is actually a little bit off tune, because they're really looking for something which is worth getting down from the roof and meeting it. So we have here the tendency based on personality or circumstances to accept only temporary unions that may be otherwise impossible or dangerous to continue. The perfected relationship, whether for a moment or an eternity. The power for intimacy regardless of conditions. The basic drive to move on that seeks impermanency as a matter of course and not in response to circumstances. The drive for sexual and intimate diversity. So if the sixth line finds something that looks like a soulmate, they for sure will dive in to communicate that. Okay, let's move on. We have the nodes in the 28th and the 27th gate, fifth lines. So a lot of projection going on in the environment around us. We have the preponderance of the gate of the game player, so a lot of risk taking, the treachery here, the abuse of trust, the manipulation of the collective that while putting one faction against the other does not directly support or reject either. The intuitive capacity of the game player to provoke struggle amongst others, rule and divide, the breaking of alliances with trusted forces to align with more powerful forces and its attendant destabilization of the whole. The intuitive recognition in times of struggle to know when alliances must be broken and its destabilizing effect on others. Let's see what those unions are going to be, and what we have also here, the power, changing power place. And the 27th gate, nourishment, the gate of caring, the executor, fifth line, the ability to distribute effectively the resources of others, either the gifted and principled agent of distribution or the good sense and ability to find one, the power and strength to care for the resources of others, or the restrictive nature that hampers distribution or the seeking of advice and assistance. Weakness and the risk of loss of power restrict caring. So the abuse of trust and nourishment is what is going on. And look, we have the 27th gate and the 59th gate, which are both part of the defense circuit. So resources, taking care of the young, taking care of them so that they can afterwards on their turn take care of themselves. And dispersion, the gate of sexuality and of breaking down the barriers to achieve union is active. So we have here produce more genetically and take care of it. Both tribal, and we have here a tribal channel. So a lot of that energy going on in the transit field to take care of the life, and we can see it indeed with the help we give to the so unlucky people who were left without their homes and so many lives lost. Then we have the 25th gate, second line, the existentialist, devotion and dedication to the now in Venus, values and relating innocence, the gate of spirit of the self. And we have specifically in the second line, so projecting, being outwards, a lot of fifth lines again, and second lines, so projection fields. Devotion and dedication to the now, the perfection of the intellect through concentration, and focus on what is rather than what could be or has been. The innocence of the self and its protection can only be maintained in the now. And the other side, a dedication that can never be free of personal motivation and its attendant projections. A lack of innocence in now that risks protection through projection. So the existentialist is what the moral values is. So survive in the now, be in the now, be innocent in the now, and be natural and innocent, because protection can only be maintained in the now, or the lack of innocence in the now that risks protection through projection. And those are the moral values. So being the 25th gate, it's about really the love of it's the blood. So we have universal love, and natural universal love. That's what's in the air. Then we have the 21st gate, the gate of biting through, the gate of hunter, huntress. In the law and protection, Jupiter, first line warning, the use of force is a last resort. The fierceness to be respected without resource to action, the willpower and ego to ensure respect, or the inherent peacefulness that oh too often turns a necessary warning into a plea, a lack of willpower that is forced to ask for respect. So the law that has to be abided by is biting through, getting the best catch, and deciding who's gonna get what out of the big pie. Then the Saturn, the discipline and limitation in the clinging fire, the gate of feelings, the gate of fates. In the fourth line, burnout. So if the force is needed to be used as a last resort and is not done, then Saturn will limit this law and discipline us by burnout. An unrealistic pace that begs misfortune, a compulsive and hyperactive nature that carries all the earmarks of burnout but doesn't necessarily arrive at it. A positive outcome is often assisted through analysis, highly energized feelings that may lead to emotional collapse. And the other side, uncontrollable expansion with the inevitable bursting of the bubble, uncontrollable feelings and accompanying emotional outbursts. This is how, when you're not correct right now in the environment, you'll be limited with. And finally, almost finally, we have the second gate in Uranus, unusualness, chaos, and innovation. Is giving us direction or not, if it's not correct, depending on your strategy and authority. But we have the receptive, the gate of the higher self. In the third line, patience, the teacher that never stops being a student. For the revolutionary, patience is a vice, higher knowing that cannot wait and demands expression. And you can force the moment of expression of higher self and love and direction, and dive into a new experience which will bring crisis and not progress. And then we have finally the Pluto in the 60th gate of limitation, the gate of acceptance. Fourth line, resourcefulness, the reason and intelligent maximization of potential within limitations, the maximization of potential within limitation. And the other side, a tendency in times of limitation to seek the inner meaning of the restriction rather than using its gifts to find a harmonic application within the limitation. The former leads to withdrawal, and the later to transcendence. The energy to know rather than accept limitation at the expense of possible mutation, leading to depression. So be aware, guys, because this is the energy which is in the air, and it can lead you to take emotional decisions under the pressure for transcending the limitation and the needs to be met with the fear of rejection, looking for the spirit and the fates, crisis, and eventual progress. But this might not be here for you to live out. So, strategy and authority. This is the transit field of the week and the weather. So you know what to be aware of and where the underwater stones are. So dive with your strategy and authority in your pocket. These will bring you stability. Strategy and authority lead you on the way of least resistance. This is me, Veronica, from Human Design Journey. I was happy to share the transit of the day, and I will be glad to continue sharing. So like and subscribe, and talk to you soon. Bye for now.